Welcome to Common Sense Wellness with Dr. Gary Martin, the show that helps you take control of your health with clarity, confidence, and practical wisdom. Dr. Gary Martin has spent decades in clinical practice and natural wellness research, discovering that the key to lifelong vitality lies in understanding the body's signals before they become symptoms. Each week, we will explore simple science-backed methods like mineral testing, facial scans, and lifestyle adjustments that help you restore balance from the inside out. You'll also hear from expert guests and real clients who have turned their health challenges into stories of transformation. No gimmicks, no fads, just common sense wellness that works. Now, here's your host, Dr. Gary Martin.
Disclaimer, no diagnosis or treatment for disease is intended. Any observations or comments made by me are for general educational purposes only, and they simply represent my personal opinion regarding what I would do if I personally had the same concerns as the person voicing the question or comment. Please see a licensed health practitioner for all diagnosis, treatment, and information concerning prevention, cure, or restorative health care. I hold DN, DSC, PhD, DNM, and PhD degrees. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a licensed health practitioner by choice. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not meant to cure, treat, prevent disease, nor prescribe, nor to be used for diagnosis. Please be aware that you accept all risks associated with any of the protocols that we discuss.
Welcome to Common Sense Wellness. I'm Dr. Gary Martin. For nearly 5 decades, my work has focused on one central question. Is it possible to make a science out of being well? In this episode, I'm going to walk you through a key concept that explains why so many people improve their health, but eventually plateau, even when they're doing all the right things. We will explore the relationship between body chemistry, stress, resistance, and what I call the invisible belief system, the hidden patterns that shape your health long before symptoms appear. Let's get started.
This whole business about the memgram started was that somewhere in the late 70s, I think it was, I had a natural health clinic. I had a natural health clinic in downtown Scottsdale for about 20 years. And so we were doing a lot of testing. And then during that time, I was running all over the country, giving seminars to primarily chiropractors, but any kind of practitioner that was interested in what we were doing with the BIA, which is the urine and saliva testing. So one day, the procedure in the office was that when somebody came in, the test was done. And I was given the numbers of the test before I saw the person, just so I could kind of get an idea. Well, it was just some kind of an idea. One day, my receptionist gave me the client record, which is what the form is called. You put the numbers on, and I looked down at it, and she says, "Are you ready to see her, Mrs. Jones?" we'll say. And I looked down at the numbers and I said, "Well, I don't know whether I'm ready for this or not." And she stopped in the doorway and turned around and she asked me, says, "What'd you say?" And I says, "This person is really going to be a pain in the butt." And she looked at me and I was just staring at me. And so I said, "What?" She said, "How did you know that?" And I said, "Yeah. Well, that's a good question. How did I know that?" And I looked down at the numbers and I said, "Why?" And she says, "Because I can't wait to bring her in here. She is a big pain in the butt." And so that was the first day that I realized that, whoa, the numbers, the BIA numbers, which are totally based on urine and saliva and whatever, they contain a personality. There's more to it. Well, then as time went on, we mastered the ability to generate what we call personality profiles. There was basically 4, 6, I don't use this information anymore, so I'm a little fuzzy on that, but we developed like several personality profiles that we got pretty good at being able to, from the numbers, we would say, all right, these are the 15 personality traits of this person. And after researching that back and forth and whatever, we felt pretty comfortable in that about 85% of the list that we had was going to be true for this person. Now, it's only valid on the first test. Well, and why is that? Because the first test, it's only valid on the first test, and if a person has not been messing with their chemistry. In other words, they just came off of a week fast, or it was just a test based on the average lifestyle, right? So first test and average lifestyle representation. So we developed these personality profiles that were about 85% correct, and that was fun. That was fun for a long time. But the question that I always had is that people, when they learn about the BIA and they learn about implementing water, and they learn about the numbers, and they learn about what they need to do and not do with vitamin C and all the different things that you do in order to have like perfect numbers, which represents just enough resistance for life, but technically not enough resistance to age. That's why it's next to impossible to have and maintain perfect numbers. About the only time you probably have perfect numbers is right when you're born, and then life grabs you and for the next 80 years. All right, so people would only get so well measured by the metabolism efficiency number. They would get so well, they would come up, and then all of a sudden, boop, that's it. They could go to here, but they plateau out here, and maybe they even go back down a little bit. They're going to be better, but they're not, but they can't seem to get here. And so what we figured out was that what was holding them back was their invisible belief system, we called it. The invisible belief system is what's going on at the cellular level for all of us. Well, then about that time that I was on that path, I knew this personality thing and the BIA, when I knew that there was more to the BIA. I met a guy by the name of Joseph Scognia, Scogna, Joseph Scognia Jr., who was just an amazing mind. I mean, years, maybe even generations before his time. And he was playing around. His big thing, he had evolved into it, but what he was really into was infrared. There are acupuncture heat points and whatever on your face that relate to different parts of your body and organs and things of that nature. And so what he was doing was he had an infrared gun that he had developed some software to the computer, and he was shooting all those points, reading the heat. And then he had developed a thing that he called the chain, and it showed the organs that were involved. And then he had structured a whole bunch of emotions that are associated with the organs and all that. It was just an amazing concept. He died at a very young age. He died at like age 40 or so. So it's like, I spent a lot of hours on the phone with him. He was in Pennsylvania. I was in Arizona. Saturday mornings, I don't know, we talked for hours. I'm surprised that he did it, actually, but I mean, taught me a lot. And so when I told him, I said, well, I'm doing this test, and some people know it as the Reams test. And I just have the feeling that I can get the information that you're doing with this gun, because I don't necessarily want to have the person in front of me. I want to be able to help people all over the world, but I can get, the urine and the saliva. I just have a feeling that I can get your information out of this test. And he says, oh yeah, he was real flippant about a lot of things that he knew that other people didn't know. But he says, oh yeah, that's the Reams test. Yeah, I know all about that. He says, yeah, you can do that.
Really?
I says, what? He says, yeah, you can do that. I said, well, can you teach me? And he said, yeah, I'll do that. He knew that he was dying a long time before he died, evidently, before he even really let on. I had some audios from him. And I never could figure out why at the beginning of all of his audios, he would say, the time is short, the time is short. We got to, we got to get this out there. We got to learn, we got to teach people this and what. I never could figure out the sense of urgency until I figured out, well, he knew he was dying. Lymphatic cancer. Got him. Organ number 24, which is what happens when you meet tremendous maximum resistance to getting knowledge either into you or out from you. So it's perfect for that. So anyway, he taught me the organs. There's 24 organs in the work. He taught me the emotions that are associated with the organs. He taught me all the basic principles that we really use. What we developed from that is the practical application. Joe was extremely good at inventing and extremely good at creativity and extremely good at understanding how the universe, how one little part is a part and parcel of the whole, and they put together these systems and whatever. But what he wasn't good at was the practical application and sitting down and helping another person understand just what is he talking about. What does this mean? What does this mean for me? How can this knowledge help me be more healthy, just have a better life? So that's where we developed this thing called the memgram concept. So I'm going to try sharing my screen here, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. But can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So this quick reference chart that I have on my screen here was one of the first things that we laid out or learned. So basically what happens is that, let me show you the chart. All right. This is a sample memgram chart. So what we do is, now we can do this using just urine and saliva, which is a totally objective assay, or we can do it with a questionnaire that Joe developed that we have edited, but basically the foundation is his work, which is totally subjective. But the end result is we come up with this thing right here called what we call the organ trauma sequence, otherwise known as the chain. The same time. Now, when Joe did it, he reversed the chain. We go from left to right. Left is the first domino, it's the past, and the last domino is the present. It's kind of like we write in this country, we write from the left to the right. In some countries, they reverse it. All right. So we prefer, actually, even though we can do it just from the urine and saliva, we prefer to use the questionnaire because the information that we're going to be talking to you about is more readily accessible, or I should say, you are more aware of what is going on. Now, the purpose of this whole exercise is that the realization that your body is your mind made visible is key here. Your body is your mind made visible. So yes, when we do the urine and saliva test, we get body chemistry. And yes, that is the body talking to us. But the question is, why, other than diet? Yes, you can influence your body chemistry by what you eat and what you drink and how much sleep you get, and all the lifestyle, what we call ABLE, attitudes, beliefs, lifestyle, and environment are what cause your body chemistry to be what it is. Yes, you can do that, but a lot of that is why you do that is because of what goes on between your ears. In other words, how you see life, the experiences that you had when you were in the first 10 to 11 years. All that stuff is really why you are who you are today. And most people have no idea about this connection. We call it the memgram. So the purpose of the chart is to give us some very vital information about you. And it looks like this chain up here. And this chain's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 organs out of the 24. So you'll notice that not all the organs are there. Well, this chain Remember when I was talking about Joe liked to use the infrared gun, and what he was doing, he would measure the heat from each of those acupuncture points on the face that relate to the various organs. And the hottest one would be right here on the right side, the present. And then the next hottest would be the next one, and then all the way back over to the coolest, which represents your past. Well, we have the same ability to do this either by using the BIA, just from urine and saliva, or whether we can, but as I said, we prefer to use the questionnaire because the subjective information you are much more able to get in touch with, especially in the beginning. So we have this chain. In other words, everything comes from this chain. If we can't build the chain, then nothing else happens. Everything on this memgram chart, everything about the memgram concept, if we can't build the chain, we're dead in the water. We don't know anything. We don't know any more about you than anybody else knows. All right. So now we have the chain. So let me go to this other screen now. Bring back the quick reference chart. All right. So the quick reference chart, we can see that I have 3 boxes here for those of you that are not on video. You can request any of this information, by the way. If you registered to get into the class, you will be sent a link for the recording of the class, and also a link to be able to download these forms that I have, whatever. All right, so we have the chain. In the middle of the chain, it represents what we call the core. So in this case, the core is 1. Now you see that on the chart, it might be hard for you to see, but cause 22, 1, the core, and 17, cause, core, and effect, are bolded. That's because those are what we call the 3 key positions. All right, back to the quick reference chart. Whatever ends up in the middle in your chain tells us 2 things. It tells us what your soul pattern is. Your soul pattern is the plan for your life. It's who you really are. It's also who it is that you want to be, and a whole lot of other stuff. It also tells us what your stress pattern is. What's your stress pattern? Stress pattern is a little bit synonymous with memgram. The stress pattern. It's the resistance that is applied to you from the minute you're born, to you making it as difficult as possible for your soul pattern to manifest. Now, sounds crazy, huh? Well, the minute you're actually born into a family that represents the stress pattern. Why? Well, the physical dimension in which we live is all based on the law of dichotomies, meaning, like, for example, male, female, hot, cold, black, white, rich, poor, hot, cold. You know, yeah, we could go on for hours.
Insane and insane.
So why is that? Well, because you can't have one without the other. That's all. So if there is a plan for your life, and we hear a lot more about that than we ever do about the plan against your life. Well, I'm here to tell you that if there is a plan for your life, then I guarantee you there's one against it. Why? Because you can't have one without the other. So why would it be this way anyway? Well, it's because resistance is what produces wisdom. Resistance is what produces, well, it produces life. 2 people rubbing together produce life. Resistance is the key to everything. Okay? In the BIA, the perfect numbers, when you have the perfect numbers, it's telling you, your body is telling you that you have just enough resistance to be alive, but not enough resistance to age. In other words, it's like one great big aha moment. No stress, no, whatever. And then, the next minute life gets in the way again, and boom, 1 or more of your numbers go crazy, representing what it is that's going on in your life. Largely, I believe now, after all these years, largely because of your invisible belief system. All right, which we're going to get to here in a minute. So the soul pattern versus stress pattern. So you're here to learn. Let me bring back this is on the memgram chart. At the very bottom of the core here, it says, I'm here to learn what it feels like to be who I am not. That's why you're here. The age-old question of why am I here You're here to learn what it feels like to be who you're not. You're not here to be who you're not. That's not what it says, does it? It says you're here to learn what it feels like to be who you're not. And
if there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this. Your body is not random. It's responding intelligently to your life. When you understand the patterns behind stress, resistance, and belief, you stop fighting symptoms and you start working with the body instead of against it. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Common Sense Wellness with Dr. Gary Martin. To learn more about the testing and resources we discussed, or to find out how you can take charge of your own health, visit BIRI.org. You'll find valuable information, free tools, and ways to connect directly with our wellness community. That's BIRI.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share the show with someone who's ready to take their next step toward better health.